Okay, Mr. Phobes here. This is going to be a video on how to create your two documents and then how to set them up to print. So I'm going to show you how to work from the template. So at the end you will have your tile patterns document done, and you'll have your radial document. If you look at this, you'll notice that the information graphics should be almost the same. There might be a difference. I should have put the tile pattern motif in here, but that would be the only difference. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start out by going to your Blackboard, go to the Symmetry of Culture project folder, go down to creating the Symmetry of Culture document, and then you're going to download the Symmetry template AIT, Adobe Illustrator template. So you'll download that to your desktop, okay? So I've done that. So what I'm going to do is I'll go File, Open, and then I will find my Symmetry template and I'll open it. And there it is. And you can see that it comes in with the grid lines and the guidelines. It also comes in with the layers, and I've set these up in the particular order: text layer on top, the image background, and then the symmetry. So a couple of things that you might want to do. I would start with bringing in the tile pattern because it's going to take up the most amount of room. One of the things that you might want to do is all the layers come in locked. Unlock the text layer, make sure on the text layer, and what we're going to do is we're going to select this pattern name, and we're going to bring it down a little ways because it's going to be in the way of the first pattern. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to lock that, and then I'm going to unlock the symmetry pattern, and this is going to be the tile pattern itself. So I'm going to make sure I'm on this. I'm going to go File, Place, and if I go to my desktop, I've created a folder called Symmetry Demo, and it's got everything that I need in it. So I'm going to place the pattern first. So this comes in and it's 1800 by 1800, so it's a little bit small for our, but I've got this set up to snap to the guidelines. Now I'm going to hit the Shift key. I'm just going to drag it until it goes right to the other guideline. These guidelines are set up so they're exactly 9 inches apart because part of the requirement is that the pattern is 9 by 9, and same with your radial study. Okay, so now that that's in place, I'm going to move the pattern name up. So I unlock, make sure I'm in the text layer. I'm just going to move this guy up. And if you see that, that means it's in the center, which is nice. Okay, I might as well give it the name right now. So I go to the text panel, type tool, and I'm going to call this reflectional tile pattern. Now I might also want to indicate that every other tile is rotated. So let me move this back a little bit. With, I'll just say tile rotation, which is not the same as the rotational pattern. It means I've rotated every other tile. And again, I want to center it nicely. Okay. I think the next thing I want to do is make the background rectangle for my information graphic. So let me lock the text again. I'm going to go to unlock the image background. So this is going to be a rectangle we're going to make. The rectangle again, I suggest as a starting point is 3.5 inches high by 9 inches wide. So I want to go to the fill and stroke panel. I'm going to go back to the default, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the fill, double click it, and I want it to be a gray. And then I'm going to select the stroke, and up here you'll see what size it is. Let's set it to 3. Okay. Now since I've got the default set, now I go to the rectangle tool and I click on it, and then anywhere in the document I'm just going to click and a dialog is going to come up, and I'm going to type in 9 IN for the width and 3.5 for the height, and hit OK. And there it is. So I'm going to go to the selection tool, select it, and then I'm going to move this guy over. And since it's 9 inches, I want it to snap right to those guidelines. All right. You can see it's kind of cramping the text here, so I can move the text later because it's in a different layer. So I'm going to call that good, and I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is bring in the images. So I'm going to unlock the image layer, and then let's just enlarge this a little so you can see what I'm going to do. All right. This is in the way. That's annoying. So I'm going to unlock this, lock the image. I'm just going to select that, and I'm using the down arrow on the keyboard. So you can see the requirement is that in your information text you need about 250 words, and that will just about fit in here. You might have to move this stuff up a little, so I think what I'll do is I'll unlock this and I move the whole thing up a little bit. Okay, all right. Lock it, lock the text, come back to the image. So now I'm going to bring in my graphics. So I'm going to go File, Place, go back to my folder. So there's my stone. Now, mine is a little unusual in that it's actually a detail from a larger stone. I wish I could have found the whole stone, but I couldn't. You're probably going to have an entire object. I'm going to hit the Shift key. I'm going to bring this down to something that's going to give me a little bit of space underneath for text. So this should be good. I'm going to have 3 images. All right. So since I don't have an overall, I'm going to have to use this again to show the selection of my pattern. So I'm going to select the Option key. I'm on the selection tool, and I'm going to drag a copy. Right. Now you can see that it automatically lines up the smart guides, show that it's lining up. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I want to highlight this area, which is where my motif is from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the fill and stroke again, but this time I'm going to select I want the fill to be much lighter. And then the stroke, I don't need it to be 3. 2 should be okay. All right. Now I'm going to go to the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to highlight this little area right here. It doesn't have to be exact. I can move it down a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the opacity of this. So I go up to the opacity tool. I can click the side arrow. It'll go into a slider. Slide it down to maybe about 65. That looks okay. Now the one thing it does do is it also changes the opacity of the stroke. If you're really concerned about that, you could do deselect the fill, select the stroke, and then go to the rectangle tool, and then you can draw, if you wanted to, you could draw just a stroke on top of there. And you see the stroke now is a little bit more opaque, so you could do it that way too. Okay, the next thing I want to do is bring in the motif. So I'm going to go File, Place, Motif, Place. And again, this is actually not the motif that I used for my pattern. I really need that for the tile pattern, but this will suffice for the demo. Again, what I want to do is I'm going to select the Shift key, and I'm going to wait until they line up just like that. And then, I can move them over a little bit. If I'm going to move this whole section here, again, what we want to do is we want to make sure that since we don't want to move the background with it, so we have that on, we've got it locked down. So I'm going to select this, and while I'm at it, I might as well just go Object, Group, and then when I select it, the whole thing will move over all together, because there's actually 3 different objects in there. Move this. So this isn't critical, just think about making it, visually appealing. So that looks pretty good. If I wanted to, again, on this, I could give myself another stroke. That might make it read a little bit better. I don't know. That kind of looks nice. That's fine. Okay, let's, what I would do now, because we're going to transfer this, let's select, I'm going to go to the image background. We're going to make sure it's not like, so we have only the image and the image background open. So we're going to select the whole thing, and then we're going to go Object, Group. That way they're now all locked together. If we need to move them, like if we need to move this up or down, we just select the grouping, and it's not going to be a problem with trying to move these independently. Okay, so the one last thing I need to do on this is create a text layer to describe the images. So I'm going to lock, it's always a good idea to lock these, because then you won't mess them up. So now I'm on the text layer, go to the text tool, I'm going to select an area that the text is going to go in. This way the text will all line up. Now, what happens is when you do that, it defaults to the Illustrator text of Myriad, but remember we're working in Arial, so we want to select Arial, and then 12 point is fine, and then start topping. So this is called the Aberdeen stone. I'm going to move these down just a little bit, and go back to the text tool, move them a little bit. They don't read that well. I might select them and change them to bold. There we go. That works a little bit better. Okay.